I don't
But
know if you remember that.
I do remember. That's like the main thing everybody always asks me about. It's the crypt story. So for the people that don't know this, Victor is when we both went to the same school. We went to a very conservative Catholic school when we were younger. Victor stayed there longer than me before I moved to the U.S. And I've told this story a million times, but just if you're new to the channel, we couldn't really play Yu-Gi-Oh in a whole lot of places, mostly because Yu-Gi-Oh got
just
banned in
just
our school. But
Yeah, and just to give like a sense of how it was, it's like you had like I don't know how to say in English, not security guards, but the
oh
monitors.
yeah,
They were walking in the
oh, how
corridors
do you
with
even
like
say that in
rules.
English? Yeah, just security.
I don't know.
It's not
Yeah,
quite
but
that,
like
but
the security, they were walking in the corridors with a rule to measure the shorts of the girls, and if it was 5 centimeters more between their knee and the actual shorts, they had to go home to
yeah,
change.
yeah, that was the level. So we couldn't get away with playing Yu-Gi-Oh anywhere. So the crypt was always the spot. Hey, do you remember? Okay, so I remember this vaguely. And maybe speaking of which, I was gonna ask you other things before we went to into the crypt conversation, but we can start there. So okay, do you remember when you go? Okay, so the if you guys don't know, a crypt is essentially I've explained this, but I'll explain it again. A crypt is basically where they bury Catholic priests. So our school was founded by Hungarian monks, and it was first a church, and then a school was built around this church. So the church came before everything. And the crypt is where we would often play Yu-Gi-Oh, which is where they bury the priests, because nobody would come looking for us. I've kind of told
I
the.
think they were burned. Like you burn them and like the ashes were
Oh,
there, so
really?
it was several lockers.
Oh,
Yes,
you're right.
it's weird.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, but isn't like cremation again? Not like, isn't that
I
like a?
don't know.
I
I
thought
don't
that
know if
that's not a
if it was
Catholic
like,
thing. I,
yeah, no, it is. You have the option. I know because my grandmother, she was super
you do?
Catholic and
I thought that that was a
she
big
was
no-no.
burned. So no, you have the option. Like today you have the option, but it was a place that it was for like some high level priests of the monasterium, because our school was a school, but it was a school of a monasterium, and there are two unities of that school. One is in Brazil and the other one is in Hungary.
Uh huh.
So yeah, fun fact. And you could like pay to be buried there, or if you were like a high level priest of the church, you would be there, basically. So it's
So
not a
those,
place that they would just let two
but now,
brats
you
get
know
in.
what? That actually makes sense because when I remember it, they weren't like graves; they were like drawers. So that makes
Yeah,
sense.
exactly.
That's like their ashes
Mm-hmm.
in there. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Because it,
There's a. This is really morbid, but there was like a picture of each one of them next to the cabinet.
yeah, yeah.
It's like it's not even graves; they're just a bunch of filing cabinets. Yeah, but anyway, do you remember this thing where you would go through the church, you go in, and then you go behind the middle pillar of the church, and then you go down, and
Yeah.
there's like a pharmacy there. Do you remember that shit?
Yeah, quote, it's a place that you cannot go unless you work in the priest in the church. So
Yeah, but what was the purpose of that being a pharmacy? Like, cause I remember it being like it looked like a grocery store. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I remember when you go down there, like there's aisles and aisles and aisles, and there's like clerks in front of it, like under the
I have
church.
no idea. No, you for
Yeah.
sure used way more time exploring that place than me, because we it was a just out of context. It was like a we had several classes, and on this day it was like a physical education class, which is like class to play soccer, basically. And we skipped the class, and we're like, all right, we need to find a place that on the break time, on the break time, we can play Yu-Gi-Oh without people thinking that we are doing some sort of satanic ritual. And then how should I call you?
You can call me Urus.
Yeah, so like Urus was like, hey, I know a place. I know a place, bro. And I'm like, all right, let's see where it is. And then he started taking me like to the church, which is like the school is like a big like it's a like a the school is huge, has like 3 or 4 Olympic pools, and basically they have a church inside the
Oh, it looked
school
like a
that I
giant frickin' country club or something.
yeah, it's fancy. And it's like you have this like church that we didn't hate, by the way, because it was like awesome on the days that it was like a, a, a date that
Like
a
prayer
saint
day.
die or something like that.
You don't
Yes,
have
and
to
we
go to
have like
class. We just go to
no
the
math
church.
classes because we can sleep on the church because we just stay in the back and sleep. And then Uruz was like, I know a place that we could go, and he started taking me to the church, and I'm
So
like,
I'm the one that
that's
introduced you to the church. I don't remember that.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
and I'm like, we are already skipping class. The last place I want to be in the time that I'm skipping class is going to the church. So I was already like, where are we going? And then we went in this place that he was mentioning earlier, like like
no
behind the
one's gonna
center
find us
of
here,
the
dude. Trust me.
yeah, no, like yeah, no one's gonna find us. And then we went downstairs, and at that moment, I thought we were fucked because we saw like a cleaning guy, like a cleaner, and Uruz was always like. Since we were younger, he had a really good, really good soft skills. Like he's really good talking to people. We were two kids, two brats, like 10, 11. And then he just got to the cleaner and started talking like normally, like,
Just
hey,
finessed them.
what's up? We are just going, how are you? And then he gave the hands to the cleaner, and then it was like, we're just going around, and our parents work nearby, and they were like, I don't remember the story that he made up, but he made an excuse. So the cleaner guy gave us the key to go see how was the crypt. Like the place was fucking locked,
Some
and
fucking
I don't remember. Yeah,
level 80 charisma skills.
do you remember what did you tell him? I don't
I
remember.
don't fucking
I don't
remember.
recall. I don't recall. And then like I was just like I froze as a 10-year-old kid would, and Uruz just did the talking. He got the key. The guy left. And that's it. We were inside the crypt, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? It's like that
Well,
was the new spot.
and the thing I remember too, there were times when we would go there and it was locked, and there are times that it just wasn't. So I don't think
Yeah,
that
because
guy.
probably the dude was not a really good employee
That's
and
what I was gonna
forget
say.
to lock,
He
or it
forget,
was his nap room.
or he did, probably didn't think anybody was gonna go there. Like there was nothing to steal, you know. Well, do you remember? Okay, wait. Do you remember when fucking stole the bishop's robe? Do you remember that shit?
No, I don't think I was in that. Thank God.
No, dude, I wasn't with him either. But fucking one of our friends, you know, the not even just a regular priest robe. There's like a purple robe. The I don't. I think it's ceremonial. I don't know if you
Mm,
know what I'm talking about. At one point,
I know.
fucking, he stole that shit. He stole it and took it home. And school was looking for it, and he had to turn it back in. He was like, "I'm gonna sell it on
Oh my
eBay. I'm gonna sell it
God.
on
But
eBay."
that dude was like he was crazy on another level. Like we were doing all kind of shit, but he was doing like some
he
yeah,
was
no, no, no.
he
That
was
was
on.
that was too much.
Yeah, he
That
was
was
on.
just too much.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
were just trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh. We weren't trying to steal anything. But anyway, so I remember when I went down to this place, there's this, you come up to this counter, and there's like a clerk there. There's somebody like filing stuff. And it looks like, I think it's medications. And I asked them, and they told me, "Oh, this is the pharmacy of the school." Because you know how we had the little enfermaria? That's where they
Hmm.
stored the medication. The problem I remember, dude, is that there were the amount of medications was so much that it just didn't make sense. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean. I don't
Do you think
recall
it's
that, but I
donations?
think I know why. No, no, like basically the type of school that we were, like the monks of their school, they are from a specific order that is the I don't know, it's the Benedicts, or I don't know how to say in English, but it's the Benedicts. So basically they don't leave the place. Some of them leave the place because they are in
Oh, I know.
higher
Yeah, they
ranks, but
live there.
usually yeah, like if anyone who is listening to this has ever watched like Vikings, the series, like the monks that are always inside the monastery when the Vikings arrive in England, like though it's like those dudes, like they don't leave the monastery, don't wear gold, they wear just like robes and like very simple clothes, and they stay all day praying.
And at
So
one
it
point, they were
makes
the teachers.
sense, and it makes sense that they had a pharmacy inside because like they cannot just leave, like some of
Oh, I
them
know,
can, of
but
course,
what
but
I'm
yeah.
saying, like the amount, like it was just so much so many medications. You know what I mean? Like an excessive
Mm-hmm.
amount. So my thought, you know, the first, conspiracy, my child mind was like, all right, probably drugs, because I'm sure our school, I don't know, my other part of my adult brain goes, it's probably like donating because I know our school supported a lot of the community. So I wonder if they did that with medications also. You know what I mean? But
Mm,
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
That whole place was just weird. I wonder sometimes if there is something shady going on there. Like even at our school, there were so many shady characters that attended that school. Do you remember? I'm not gonna say her name. Remember the girl that I crushed on my entire life? I'm not gonna say her name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you remember? Do you remember what happened with her family in the new? They went on the newspaper.
No, I don't.
No, she comes from an Italian family, and do you remember? Well, I'm not gonna say the name of the restaurant. I'll say it, and then I'll cut it out just for her privacy. But
Uh huh.
yeah. So her family ended up on the news because that restaurant was a front to launder money from casinos and illegal gambling.
Her dad is a mafia
Literally was
boss,
on the
basically.
newspaper. And then, even personal friends of ours that I'm also not going to share the name for their privacy were affiliated or part of the family of politicians, which I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. But so I don't know. Sometimes we're deviating off the topic here. We want to get back to Yu-Gi-Oh, but sometimes I wonder what else was going on there. You know what I mean? If there was anything shady, but because dude,
Yeah.
under the church, like, so the same place that we used to go to play, there were tons of rooms like that, but they weren't crypts. I just, I find it weird. Like, it's almost like, because, that school is so old. I wonder if at one point, how, I don't know,
Let me.
historically.
I don't know if you remember, but do you recall where the library was?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember that they remade the library at certain point, like restructured
Yes.
everything?
Uh huh.
And before the restructure, do you remember that? I don't know how, but you found out the door behind one of the shells, that it was like it was I cannot say it's a hidden passage. It was like you could
Yeah,
see that
but
it's a door, but it
yeah.
was in a place that people almost never go. And we got in that place because one day it was unlocked, and it was basically like old, like the place where the monks probably slept, but
That's what I'm saying.
it
So,
wasn't being used anymore. It wasn't being used, so it was
yeah.
creepy as fuck
I
because it
know.
was like empty rooms and stuff there, and like no one, and like spiders, and like what the fuck.
So that's what I'm saying. Do you think that some of those rooms in a place exactly like that? Do you think that that's like historical remnants? Like that was part of how back in the day Catholics had to go to catacombs, and it was common for catacombs to exist under churches and stuff like that. Do you think that that's what that was? Like a remnant of that?
I'm not really sure. I know it's because like, so the school started in Second World War when a lot of Hungary people ran from Europe to Brazil, and they went through several restructures. So it's like it's expected to have places that are not used anymore, that they
Right.
were like barely on the sunlight and closed, and today they just have like nice building outside. But yeah, yeah. But that was like it was weird.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was a few places like that under the church too, where I just opened it and I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is
Yeah.
probably where I'm gonna get trafficked if I don't fucking leave." You know
The
what I mean?
unsettling part is why you were there opening random doors at the church and not in the class. But okay.
That's kind of fucking kid I was. I don't know.
That is the yeah,
I was
yeah, it was nice.
I was a troubled bored child. Oh, I guess I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Everybody else just playing soccer, doing normal kid shit, and we were trying to fucking
Yeah.
uncover the Da Vinci Code from the school.
So a part that involves Yu-Gi-Oh, that it's a story that I just recalled now. It's like it was three of us. It was basically, so Urus had a friend, the one who stole
The fucking
the
rope.
priest's clothes. Yeah,
that,
yeah, the
that
fucking
shit's
robe.
funny, dude.
So this guy, he was not a nice, he is not a nice person. Like today, I cannot say because I don't know the guy anymore. But he was not a nice person, like a nice kid, and he was like always like creating problems, and he was very like arrogant, and he was a very rich boy, and his mom was buying always the top cards for him. So he had like every Yu-Gi-Oh cards, like he had all of them, and he was always building the like top tier decks. And
Yep.
I never liked the guy. He was never my friend. But
Yeah, you two
before I
you two had
started
some
being,
serious beef going on for years.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say. That's the story. So I want to talk about the Black Rose Dragon. That
Oh,
story. I
yep.
don't know if you recall that
Yeah,
story.
I
Yeah,
do.
and basically like there was a moment where this guy like Uruz he's a trouble kid, but he was a nice kid. So it makes sense that within time those two guys they went apart from each other, and basically like when I started hanging out with Uruz, he was not hanging out with these other dudes anymore. Like it was like, but there was a shady few months there that the three of us were kind of together. But I was there because I like to hang out with Uruz, but I hated the other guy, so I was kind of just like swallowing,
And
like
for Yu-Gi-Oh
just like
purposes too, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. It's like not everyone played. You play with who you can play. You don't choose. So it's like the dude was playing. He had nice cards, and he was arrogant as fuck. So he liked to bet cards, and he played really poorly. So it was like yeah. And I remember that like I didn't like the dude, and the dude was like really not a nice person, and we were playing in the emergency stairs because it was forbidden to play, and we were playing the emergency stairs, and the
like
dude
the
betted
fire
like
exit
his
stairs.
yeah in the fire exit stairs, and he betted his fire Black Rose
Black
Dragon.
Rose
He betted
Dragon.
his
Yeah,
Black
we
Rose
we were
Dragon.
gambling all the time.
He gambled it and he lost, and he started crying, and I feel mean to say that, but fuck, it was so good to see that asshole like being just like and he started crying and it's like give
I
me
don't
my
think that
card
was the
back, and
only
I'm
time
like
that that happened too. I feel like then there was a rematch. Like we were doing that in general, betting our cards.
yeah, he lost, but he lost a lot of cards, and then like yeah, and
And
then
then
eventually
and then you ended up losing your cards at one point, right? I remember. I think it was your grandma or somebody in your family like confiscated your cards because they found out you were
no, but that's
playing.
a yeah, that's a different story. So that I was at my cousin's. I taught my cousin how to. That's a really funny story because last year I went to Brazil and my cousin had have a Yu-Gi-Oh tattoo in the leg, and he said that he made it because we were playing when we were younger. And I'm like, fuck, I had no idea that I had so much influence. And I'm like, I
No,
need a Yu-Gi-Oh tattoo too. I'm like, yeah, it was nice. But yeah, so I taught my cousin. He was way younger than me, so it makes sense. Like I was teaching him how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and basically my grandmother arrived and she saw, I don't know the name of the card, but it was a card that Pegasus had, that it was that
relinquished.
or it was Yugi, no, it was it's that clown that it's holding a
Oh,
mirror.
Saggy the Dark. Oh no, no, I know the one with the mirror in front of the face, the
It
copy
has
one.
like it holds two mirrors or two faces, something, I don't recall exactly, but it's not a strong card, like it shows up in, it's a shitty card, but yeah.
Like
So my
maybe
grandmother
Mystic
saw
Clown.
that
I don't know.
card, but it looks like evil, I like if I
Yeah,
see that shit today, I'm like, all right, I can see, like,
yeah. Half of the
but
cards from that era just look really
yeah,
evil.
yeah, and she got that card, and she just had to like, she freaked out, and she got all my cards, and she started tearing them apart, and it was so fucking traumatic. And then I remember that like 10 years later, I was like 25, and my cousin was like 20. We were still playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and we went to the same grandma house, and he's like, I'm not going there, and I'm like, what? He's like, I'm not bringing my Yu-Gi-Oh cards to her house. And like the dude was traumatized, and he was like 20, and I'm like, fuck. Because for me, I was older, so I was just pissed and crying, but I think he got like a serious trauma on my grandma and cards. And he's like
Oh shit.
hiding an
I
adult hiding the cards. It
I
was
think
like
that
funny,
happened to a
yeah.
lot of kids, man. Especially like in our, at that, I mean, Brazil's still a very Catholic country, but even at that time, it was even more conservative. I'm sure tons of kids just got their Yu-Gi-Oh cards ripped and confiscated.
But if you stop to think about it, it kind of like makes sense because like I love Asian culture, I love like Japanese culture, but the guys like they don't know shit about what's going outside, it's like they
Hmm.
are really like Asian focused, so
Hmm.
they know about a lot about their country, but what's going outside, they know like the stereotypes, they
Hmm.
know heavy stereotypes. And this goes into religion, like Catholic religion, it's not a big thing in Japan, like they are Shintoists and Buddhists, and well, there are Catholics, but it's not like a big one. So they just got the mythological part of it, of the tales, and created something like unholy on top of that, but
Hmm.
it was just fiction. Like they
Yeah,
didn't do it on purpose to like bother church. But when you get that thing and put it out of context and put it in like a Western country,
it looks
it's like
satanic.
I can understand why it created the noise it did, especially the
Yeah.
first one.
Oh,
Yes.
Monster Zero.
Sorry if I just said your name. So Uruz, it would be really nice if you could just like show everyone to do a refresh on the first opening of Yu-Gi-Oh! And then Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Like
Oh,
the
we.
difference of the openings.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know if you recall that.
yeah, I
It's
do.
just ridiculous.
I was
It's like ridiculous.
It's funny if you play Skater Boy, the entrance of the song Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne before the entrance for GX, it sounds like the exact same song.
Yeah,
Just to give you an
it's just
idea.
like
But
how they got something so evil and cool and transformed into something
well,
childish, but it was still cool. It was
let's
still
talk about
cool.
that. No, let's talk about that cuz that's something we talk a lot about on this channel. And just so you know, like
Yeah.
everything you're saying, people know more than me and you do, man. There's like the people in the comments usually know way more than I do, but everybody knows what you're
Oh, I
talking
know.
about. But
I know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays. I'm like,
nah,
I
that's
was
not
just a
true.
casual player.
Yeah,
I
but
was just a casual
you're
player at the
pretty good at the
time.
game, dude. You're pretty good at the game. When you yeah, me and you only play Master Duel, but when you don't play every season, but the seasons you decide to play, you always top rank every time.
But it's different because I have fun in winning, so I build a meta deck even though I am disgusting and people hate me and they curse me. And you play like and you are like the wizard of cards and try to create a white blue eyes white dragon card and it
Yeah,
doesn't
I'm
work.
like
So
just some
that
random. I'm trying to make X Sabers work in 2025.
yeah, so
Yeah.
Uros play way better than me, but the difference is that he wants to actually have fun with the cards, and I have fun by winning. So like, I usually am a meta slave, or I build a counter meta or something really like annoying, like the Eldritch deck that just makes people like FF before the 15. So yeah, I'm the guy who
What's the last
who
one you were
people.
playing? Because that one's a very common one. The little dinosaur with mirror shield that you can't special summon.
It was nerfed. It was like it only lasted for like one
I
or
know.
two
Well,
months,
because
and then
that
it got
shit, because
nerfed.
that shit was disgusting.
But that was the window where I got like top 500 players at the time. But it was like, but it's a no skill deck. It's just like you put that card and you instantly won. I forgot the name of the card, but it's basically it doesn't let you special summon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody knows the card. I don't remember the name either, but it's like everybody knows what we're talking about. That skeleton
yeah.
dinosaur with the moon shield and whatnot.
But
But
it's a whole different meta, right? From the TCG. Like Master Duo is a Frankenstein between the TCG and the OCG. So
yeah, pretty much. And it's a little bit behind too. A lot of people say
yeah,
that the OCG, what they play in Asia, is better, but that's another
yeah.
conversation. But let's just go into that, man. So we'll go step by step. So you had just mentioned how we went from, because this is something I talk a lot about on my channel, and I feel like you at points you have similar opinions to mine, but you kind of like some of the new stuff too. Am I right? Like
Yeah, I
you
think
tend to like the modern game more than I do, right?
we have really similar opinion until a point, and I think that on Master Duel we completely disagree.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah,
let's kind of work into that. So first thing we kind of mentioned that the game went from the Duel Monsters era, this very, satanic or occult like theme, and then we go into GX. Why do you think? So first of all, did you like the GX era? Not we don't. I guess the anime too, but more the cards and the way that the game was played. How did you feel about that era? Because that's probably when we
I
played
did
the most serious.
I did like we joke that before it was better because it was more like traditional and hardcore and evil, but the truth is like the older we get, the more annoyed we get by the new things. It's just like with Pokemon, people talking that the first generation is the best one, and it's like,
Hmm.
dude, if you stop to think about it, Pokemons are like weird as fuck. You just think that it's better. It's better because you're a child when it was
Yeah,
created.
there's a
So for you, it
nostalgia
is
component,
okay.
right?
Exactly. So it's like I think that with Yu-Gi-Oh is the same. And the second generation, I did not like the vibe of the creatures from Yu-Gi-Oh, like the
Hmm.
GX. I did not like the vibe of the creatures. I prefer the first one, that they were more mythical, like Egyptian, like old gods. I like more that vibe.
Uh huh.
But I
I do
think
too.
but I think that they did a way better job on linking with the anime. So putting like the schools, you have the raw school, you have the blue school, you have like you have the three gods,
Slifer.
and like yeah, this lifer, and yeah, I don't remember shit anymore. But like they made you feel more immersed in the context with the cards and the anime, which can
In
be
the
good for
GX era.
some, can be bad. Yeah, in the GX area, I think it was more synchronized because, like, I don't know if you remember, but like in the well, that's still happening in the GX. But in the normal one, Yugi is basically the biggest thief of all time. He just puts a
Oh
card
yeah,
and
he's just
invents
cheating
an
all the
effect
time.
that doesn't
Yeah.
exist, and
And
he,
attacks the
he
moon
wins.
and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
like
anime
their
was a little
card,
bit more concise, right? Like what you were seeing on the screen was the actual effect. They weren't making shit up as they went, type of thing.
no, I think they were, but less.
But
Or
less.
maybe we were just like already in love with Yu-Gi-Oh, so we paid more attention.
No, because
And
I've
when the
rewatched
first one
GX.
released, it was okay.
No,
If you
you're right
rewatch it, yeah,
because I've rewatched both of those as an adult, and yeah, the GX was a little more loyal for sure, if not completely.
yeah,
I don't remember seeing
yeah,
anything in
yeah.
GX that I was like, all right, that's not how it works, but maybe there is.
I recall being more loyal, but I won't put more my hand on the fire for it because I don't like I didn't rewatch them.
Yeah, no,
But
I
yeah,
get you.
I loved the vibe of like the characters wanted me to get the deck of the car. This was more like I felt that more on the GX, you know.
Hmm. So why do you think they went with that change? Like because when I've talked about this, my thought was always like, okay, at the time superheroes were popular, so they try to capitalize on that with the GX stuff. And my vibe check is that
And
they probably
mechas, like
yeah,
they have a
but
lot of like robot styles on GX too.
right, but like my feeling was that maybe okay, maybe they're catching on that it's pissing off the religious people in other countries. So maybe dial back the occult, the demonic stuff a little bit. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's more that's what was popular in Japan at that time? What do you think caused that triggered that? Because there's a
I
there's a
think it was
massive change, and GX still has like if you look at U Bill, GX still has demons and stuff like that, but obviously they dialed it back. Why do you think they made that choice?
I think it was both. Like for sure there was this marketing sales that they were like, well, if we play like we saw that this game can be popular in the West, but if we play less with the religious side of it, we will get even more people playing and buying the game. That's like
Mm-hmm.
for sure because people want money. I'm sure the guys that they are not dumb. They created a multi-millionaire game. Like they know what they were doing. Like that's the first thing. But the second is like if you pay attention on Japanese culture, and I don't know how it is in the US, but like at least in Brazil or here in Europe where I live now, it's like the products that you have in the supermarket are the products that you have in the supermarket, and that's it. You're gonna get that type of cheese. They will have that for the rest of your life. In Japan, it's like, oh, let's make a transparent cherry peach flavor Coke with tomato on top, and let them available for like 2 weeks, and then you'll never see them again. And they do that like every season, and they have different flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Like they experiment, they try, they do crazy shit. So like
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if it was just a dude like, hey, why don't we shift everything up and make robots? you know?
So maybe like a more like a creative impulse as
Yeah,
opposed
I
to
think I think I think that could be also the driver.
mm-hmm. I think
But
superheroes were popular at
if
that
you
time too, so
yeah, but they are like I think that might be even a stronger factor because if you look at the state of Yu-Gi-Oh today, and I know we are going to get to that point, so maybe I shouldn't say about it. I'll
no,
talk
we
about it
can
now.
we
But
can
just to
bounce.
like the state of Yu-Gi-Oh today is like it's I don't know in the US, but at least in South America and in Europe, it's like it's growing smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh yeah,
And
I
Konami,
called Draco. I
Konami,
called Hot Yu-Gi-Oh. They don't even sell Yu-Gi-Oh anymore.
oh, had Dragon? Did they? He had a Red Dragon can.
Yep, a latinha do Red Dragon. Yep. Well, Draco,
Let's do Red
he
Dragon.
doesn't. They don't sell Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. It's just like I looked at their website. It's Funko Pops and like Gunplas and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I went there actually 1 year ago when I went to Brazil. I went there and I asked him if he recalled you. He said no, but I think he just didn't like you, so he said no.
Probably not
But
because we were always calling him.
yeah,
asking
Yeah,
him to
but
resolve. He
it's
was using him as a ref over the phone.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is like dying between quotes in every place of the world, but in Japan, Yu-Gi-Oh it's okay. Yu-Gi-Oh it's doing fine because they have their own consumer market, and that's enough to like kind of feed them. So it that's why I
Yeah.
think that it also makes sense that they just went on this creative thing and like let's all shake things
Do
up
you
and
do
not
you think
only to
that?
sell to the rest of the
Oh,
world.
I
Yeah.
apologize. There's a little bit of delays on our microphone. I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Super annoying.
Yeah, yeah.
But
No worries.
when do you think that that's why now? Just that since we're talking about the current game, do you think that because so I looked at the numbers for Konami and Yu-Gi-Oh, and I think that the last because Konami rarely shares the profit reports. And Yu-Gi-Oh, the last
Uh-huh.
time I checked, it was in 2023, I believe, and they actually reported profits. Like Magic the Gathering, other games were actually down, and Yu-Gi-Oh was like up 3%, I think, or something like that. And like the sales are not coming from the West, but it's very clearly like they're making their money in Japan still and in Asia. It's very clear.
But they do it on purpose, right? Like they close their numbers so people don't see that the game is dying, and they decide to release the reports when they see any positive impact. So it's
Okay.
like I'm not sure. I'm not sure actually. This is like a question. Like probably people in the comments and in your channel know. But it's like is Konami like open to the market? Like, can I buy stocks from Konami or the card game? Because I know that the card game, like the card name is produced by. It's not like a Pokemon that it's like Pocket Monsters that do the cards and like the company, for example, that doing Pokemon TCG Pocket. They are not the owners of the cards. They need a license. So like I don't
I
know if
think
something
even
similar happens in
Yu-Gi-Oh had to buy a
Konami.
license from Wizards of the Coast at one point. I don't know.
Ah, okay, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty sure that Konami is a publicly traded company, but I could just be talking out of
yeah.
my ass. I've never bought stock in Konami or looked at that,
Yeah, I don't
and I
know.
don't feel like looking. But with that said, they don't know the numbers, like the specific numbers are closed, so they'll periodically reveal like is Yu-Gi-Oh on the up, is Yu-Gi-Oh on, they won't tell you when it's on the down. They reveal it when it's convenient, but sometimes they do. But no, it's closed. Like that's been a big mystery because everybody knows that the game is doing well in Japan, and everybody knows that the competitive scene is massive. But at the same time, it's hard to find Yu-Gi-Oh products. It's hard to find people to play. Nobody in the West seems to play the game anymore. So that's they don't release specifics. Like they don't say, "Oh, it's up three
But that
percent, but it's because of Japan."
that is I think that is related to pandemic. Like after like especially with the growth of
Mm.
digital and after pandemic, people started playing more like the digital version. Like me, for example, like
Well, but that includes digital
I
sales too.
yeah, but I mean like okay, I see what you mean. Because I mean going to places and playing the physical game anymore for a huge share of players. Like for me, for example, that's not attractive for me. You know, I don't want to go to a place
Mm-hmm. Me
and
neither.
buy the cards and play because it's first it's expensive. It is expensive. Like
Right.
I like to play as a hobby, and when you're putting half of your salary on it, it's not as attractive anymore.
Oh yeah.
And it is more complicated in the sense of like people will there will always be that asshole that will pretend that invent one rule, and then you have to call someone to like see
The
if the
judge
dude
and
is doing the judge. And then it's like people are playing like they are touching your card and you're like, bro, don't touch my card like this. And it's like there's this dude that doesn't take a shower and he just go there and eat cheetos, and it's like
well, you know that that
so it's like
became it
mm.
became an official Konami rule now that if you stink at a locals or a YCS, you can get kicked out. They literally started having to kick people out because of that.
So yeah, it's like, why can I do that if I just can play on the comfort of my couch in underwear, and like I don't need to worry about anyone cheating because the computer will monitor the rules,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cheaper, the
Well,
digital version, right?
do you
So
feel also like I know me and you haven't played the physical game in a while, and you probably even longer than I did because when I moved here to the U.S., I still played for a long time. But do you think that
do you remember, sorry to interrupt you, but do you remember when you moved to the US, we were playing physical but on
over Skype?
Skype?
Yeah, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
That was
That was
wild.
fun. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was fun.
I know you haven't played the physical game in a long time, and I don't play it in the I still have physical cards, but I barely play it. I think I still have like my 5Ds there. I have my Edison deck, right, which I've
I
tried to
still
play
have
with some.
my deck. Yeah.
Yeah, and the ones I left you, right? Because when I left, I gave
The,
you a bunch of my shit.
my deck, no, my deck is the deck that you gave me as a birthday because my mother didn't want to give me because she said
Yeah.
that it was something from Satan. And you gave me as a birthday gift like a deck that it was as good as yours because you wanted the challenge. Do you
And we
remember
yeah,
that?
we could play over Skype and whatnot. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom
No,
didn't give
because
a
like
fuck about any of that.
yeah, because Urus, just to give context, Urus was playing with the new Stardust Dragon just released deck, and I was playing with Dark Magician. So like, of course, I wouldn't win. So he gave me like a similar synchro deck, and then we like traded some cards, so it would be actually be fun for both. So yeah.
And I went with I'm not gonna say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Our friend, our other friend that neither of us talks to anymore. I would go with him to tournaments all the time.
I
And
went with one of those with you
yeah,
guys. One,
those were fun.
his
I mean,
mother took
that was back in the GX between GX and Edison, right? Back in the 5Ds there. I mean, I have
that
such
was
good memories.
that was so nice. Like imagine like two young uh kids that loved anime going to a neighbor that was like basically Japan
Yep.
in 2 3 streets. That is like really, it's like you have like Japanese light style in the street. You have Japanese stores, like everyone there is Japanese because it is a place where you have like a lot of Japanese immigrants. And inside there's a shop where there was this like card shop, and they promoted the tournaments, and yeah,
Yeah, between
it was really
Shinozaki and
nice.
Hot Yugioh. Shinozaki was the sponsor,
Yeah,
and Hot Yugioh, both of those, I think, were sponsors of like state championships and stuff like that. Those are the biggest ones.
yeah, it was
Um,
really
but
nice.
what I was gonna say is like, so at that time, I've talked about this on my channel, but I've never talked about it with you. At that time,
Yeah,
I felt like Yu-Gi-Oh was very conducive to being a physical game, and something that keeps coming up. Like I heard, I don't know if you know who they are, but Team APS, they're really big YouTube channel here. Um, they talked about how they feel like there's not enough time to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and I'm gonna make a separate video on that, but I feel like that as well. Like even you just thinking like you see how the current game is. Can you imagine trying to play that physical? Like aside from just
no,
like rulings, like all the chains, all the combos, the deck search. Can you imagine if you had to be the one physically doing all that and you have like a
no,
chess timer? Like I
fucking annoying, fucking
yeah,
annoying. No,
exactly. So
like
I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh is just not conducive to being played physical anymore because
I don't know how was your Master Duel experience. I am sure that I loved way more than you because I remember that we were having a lot of arguments at the time that I loved the game and you didn't. So like I got used, and this is something I do. Like I'm playing now. I'm not playing Yu-Gi-Oh anymore. I'm playing Pokemon Pocket, and that's basically the only game that I have time to play, and I don't like fall into the abyss of card game and just give up my social life and my work and just
yeah,
go back to the cave and play. So that's the only thing I can play now. And because I get really addictive to games, Urus can tell that it's like I just lose myself. So it's like I need to go light on the games. But yeah, and I'm always playing and listening to something or watching something or cooking or in the bathroom. It's like because the dude will take 20 fucking minutes to do his move, and that's okay for me because like it's part of the game. It doesn't bother me, but it would be a pain in the ass to do this like physical. Like
yeah.
no fucking way.
Well, in physical, the problem too is, you have a dude staring at you, and if you don't know what every single card does, I feel like there's almost this expectation that you need to know what every card does. Because if you take a minute to read everything, you're gonna piss somebody off, and you're gonna run out the timer. So that's been an
Yeah.
issue. Like I heard Team APS talking about this, Paul, and he does this for a living, has done it for years, and he's getting back into the physical game. And his big complaint he had on a video was like, here am I, a guy that does this for a living, and I'm having a hard time keeping up with the timer or feeling like there's enough time to really understand everything that's going on, even at a locals, you know. So I don't know, man. I don't feel like you know, people are gonna get mad because a lot of people play the physical game and they like it, but I don't know. I think more and more Yu-Gi-Oh is becoming a digital only game just because of the nature of how complicated and it's not even complicated, it's just drawn out, you know? Like the combos
I
take
would
forever.
go, yeah, but I would go one step further, and this might piss some people off, but I would say that it's players that like it's fault of the players, and people might get pissed off when I say this, but it's like it's a bit of the World of Warcraft event, World of Warcraft effect. So like I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, and I saw that happening, and like the reason like people who play Yu-Gi-Oh and probably are also in the world of MMOs and know about World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. And basically, it's like why people started migrating to Final Fantasy, and there were a lot of people started playing Final Fantasy. It was not only because the game was different and it was because something was fresh, but it's like it's the player base, you know, like World of Warcraft became something so hardcore and so niche and so specific that there were no new players. And when you
Mm.
had a new player, no one was helping.
They'll just
Everyone
get
was
bullied out of the
expecting you
game.
to know everything. It's like you join the player, you need to be a pro, you need to use all the macros, you need to be like a fucking like you need to give up your life and know every combo. And it's like if you're not perfection, or even if you are, people are just trash talking you. And when you go to Final Fantasy, it's like, hey, it's like people super nice teaching you how to play, and it's like the game is not even better. It's just like the player base is way much cooler. Like I remember I like to play as a tank, and playing in World of Warcraft as a tank is like it's not hard. Like it's easier than the other roles, but it's like it's I like you need to have strategy because you need to know the path that you're doing on the dungeon. You need to plan before. There are add-ons that you download to see which are the routes that you're doing. And I'm not talking about dungeons that people do. I'm talking about like when the dungeon is first released and people already don't know like the paths. You know, you have this exploring, so it's like it's hard. If you do one mistake, everyone quit in the party and they spit on you, say that your mother should have aborted you. And like when I started tanking in Final Fantasy, people were like, "Oh, it's okay. You're going to learn. It's to the right, not to the left here." So it's like I feel that Yu-Gi-Oh have a lot of these. You know, people are it's so niche,
Uh-huh.
and people who play are like the people who are playing since the beginning, that they don't have any patience with new players, and that's the problem. Like that's a huge problem. I think it's the same problem that Magic had, and Yu-Gi-Oh is falling in the same trap.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely talked about that plenty on this channel. I completely agree with you. I think that there's a huge problem with an expectation that, you know, everybody that plays Yu-Gi-Oh is like 30 now, you know. And so, you know, we've been playing the game since we were little kids, and there's the expectation that everybody knows what's going on, you know. Even at locals, I've seen that, you know. It's no I never see any kids. It's always adults. Um, and there's always somebody fighting. You know that the main reason they've closed Yu-Gi-Oh and my card shops nearby is because of fights. Like apparently Yu-Gi-Oh has this reputation for fights breaking out.
But do you know? I think this is like, and may please correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I don't want to like offend anyone, but as a Brazilian Pokemon new player. I don't play the TCG, but I'm playing the Pocket. I started watching some videos about like new cards that arrive from the TCG and people doing unboxing because those are nice to watch even if you don't play the game. And I found out that in the US, and like this is something that doesn't happen in Europe, it doesn't happen in Brazil, like it doesn't happen in Japan. Like products are limited everywhere. Like there's a certain amount of boxes that are sent to the places like in Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. And I saw that in the US, people's just like people fight, like literally, like they beat each other to get the fucking like dude, it's a piece of paper. Like chill.
Yeah, that's sick. It's because
Like
it's scalpers. But yeah, that's so. I haven't lived in Brazil for a long time. I know you don't live there anymore, but you lived there longer than I do. So it's not a thing in Brazil. That's not going on.
It's not that. That's what I was watching. I was watching the news, like it was Pokemon players. Because in Brazil, like what happens is the same as happens in everywhere. It's like YouTubers that do contents. They go there with a lot of money and they buy half of the boxes, and that's a problem because then there's a limited amount of cards from the players, and that like messes with price markets. And in Brazil, people were pissed off and sending letters to Copag, who is the Brazilian company that has the rights to print the cards in Brazil for Pokemon. And like, but the discussion, and then we were watching like this YouTuber, he was showing the same cards being released in the US, and it's like it's the same problem, but the fight is in the problems are in a different level, you know, like people were
Yeah.
physically attacking other for
So
cards, and it's like,
we hear more about that in the U.S. is what you're saying versus in Brazil. I think
yeah,
it's I don't know, man. You know, I don't want to say it's hard, right? Because you don't like you. I don't want to piss anybody off, and I'm American. I've lived here for 15 years now, but America, we definitely have a less aggressive culture in Brazil in general. Like Americans are definitely more, you know, there's things that I think is better here for sure about the culture, but Americans are tougher in general, I think. We're very like I don't know if soft is the right word in Brazil. Soft is not the right word, but we're very easygoing as a culture. Like, would you like we have a lot of violence in the country, but it's usually over like somebody stealing your car, not your Pokemon car. You know what I mean? Like,
I
even in
I
schools,
also
I saw
think,
that. I felt like I don't know. It just feels like as a culture, we're a little bit more easygoing with certain things.
yeah, but I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's the cultural difference. Like I don't want to say that, oh, it's because like people are different in Brazil and they are nicer and they don't fight for cards. No, I think it's cards are way more expensive in Brazil, even though they are the same price, because the
So
US
you can't
dollar is
afford to be a scalper.
worth way more. But it's like the type of people who can afford cards in Brazil. It's a type of people who like they have money to buy the cards, and they are going to there, and if they cannot buy from the shop, they will pay a more expensive price to buy, because it is already something.
I kind of see what you're saying. So
Yeah,
you're saying that in Brazil, like, and I agree, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, and all that. That is a very rich man's hobby. And when you're, this is what you're
yeah,
saying. And when you're at that level of being rich, it's like you don't care if you have to buy it from a scalper. Like the price doesn't matter. So you're not worried about fighting
yeah,
over it. It's like nobody cares.
yeah,
No, because in Brazil we don't have so much of a middle class like we do here in the U.S. Right? So you either
no.
have a lot or you have nothing in Brazil, generally speaking. So
Yeah, in Brazil, it's like you pay a lot of taxes. If you're rich as fuck, it doesn't matter because you're rich as fuck. You're gonna pay a lot, but you already have a lot. If you're poor, you're not gonna pay anything because it's a communist politics. And if you're a middle class, you're fucked. So middle class don't have time to play Yu-Gi-Oh. They're always working. So basically, the poor guys don't have money to buy, and the rich people they just go there and buy. And if they pay a more expensive price from what you
it
call the
doesn't make a
scalper,
difference. Yeah.
they are gonna be pissed, they're gonna argue, they're gonna complain, but they're gonna still buy it. And it's
Hmm.
the same logic as an iPhone, you know, like in the US, like I think that was the biggest shock when I went to the US for the first time. Is like, dude work in a restaurant, he gets a minimum wage, but he can still get a top of the line phone, and that's
Yeah.
okay,
Hmm.
you know. And in Brazil it's not like that.
Yeah, you
So
have to be
yeah,
pretty rich to have an iPhone in Brazil, type of thing,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
compared to here.
Or people, or no, you see poor people with a top line of iPhone, but the person splitted the payment in 36 times, and it will pay for the rest of their life. But well,
Right. You see even homeless people here sometimes with iPhones. Well, I just told
yeah.
you, right? I mean, I got an Apple Watch and the latest iPhone, and it was basically free. It was just for switching providers, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. You told me. I would
Yeah.
love you to
So.
get one for me here. Yeah. This is the funniest thing here where I live now. Is like people have this culture. Like here in Europe, at least in the country that I live, they don't uh they don't split payment. They pay at once. So either you have the money to buy something or you don't. A car,
Hmm.
a fridge, a phone. So
Yeah,
it's
you don't pay
a
overtime ever.
house. It's weird. It's weird because it's like, at least in Brazil, we are used to buy
Parcelas.
everything, and you split, yeah, you split the payment in 10 times. 20 times with no incomes, with no extra taxes. So it's like
No
here,
interest,
this doesn't exist. No interest. Yeah.
like sem juros.
So here it's sem juros, no
Mm-hmm.
interest. Yeah.
Well, and did you
So
see what Konami did recently, like the last 2 weeks,
no, I didn't.
with Edison and Goat format? Did you hear about all that?
No.
So basically, Konami had this new they made a new ruling where they're now all the rules are across the board, and this is I kind of get it, but it's hard to explain. Essentially what happens is, you know how there's pre-errata cards, and the same, like Sangan has one effect back in the Edison era or Goat era. um,
Uh huh.
Rescue Cat has, and now it's a different effect, or it works differently, right? Like Raiko is another one.
Yeah.
There's a bunch. So they basically said that that's no longer a thing in any time wizard format. All modern rules will apply to those formats. So a lot of people are complaining. Basically, what that did is it made some cards point useless from that era. Like even if you try
So
to
they
play
basically killed the player base because the
basic,
people
yep,
that didn't want to spend money and were playing cheaper formats that they can still play,
yep,
now they can't anymore.
yeah, exactly. And what's
Yeah.
sad is like there was a huge boom of returning players coming back to to Yu-Gi-Oh, and especially the competitive scene. Like me, I love Edison, so there's a bunch of people that came back and were playing just because of Edison and because of Goat, like flying out to different states to play that. And now they killed that. And I can't, if I had a guess why they do it, I've said this before. I feel like it's because it's a closed format and they can't print new cards for it. So they don't want it to become popular because they can't make money.
What do you mean by they cannot print cards anymore?
Meaning, so Goat and Edison are closed, so they can't make new cards. It's always going to be that same exact set of cards forever. So Yu-Gi-Oh right now has a model where they make new sets of cards that replace old ones. Like they're more powerful. We have different tier zeros or tier ones. As the game evolves, power creep replaces older decks. Goat and Edison don't
Yeah.
have that because they're closed. You can't make new cards for Goat and Edison. So
You know,
the only, like, why do you think it's not in Master Duel, Goat and Edison? Why would it not be? Why don't they promote it in general? Why are they trying to kill it now? It seemingly, the only explanation I can think of is one or two. One is just sheer incompetence, which I don't believe. I think they know exactly what they're doing. But two is because they don't want that to become popular, because then they can't make new cards. That's what my thought
yeah.
is.
Truth is, Master Duel is like I love Master Duel. I don't know how it is the state of the game now, but I stopped playing because it was boring. It was like 3 or 4 months in a row without relevant cards, and yeah, they're just killing the game. I agree
What
with you
What do you mean? So why did you stop playing Master Duel? I didn't quite understand that.
because it was like it was you just get to master, right?
Mm.
Fast and easy. Be like not easy, but it's like if you're playing like game after game after game and you have a good match, a good deck, you will get to master fairly quickly. And like month after month, there were no new cards, there were no relevant content. Like they were taking too long to update the meta. Like Pokemon,
Oh,
every month we have a new
so
set.
you're on the
Every
exact
month, yeah.
okay. So you're on the exact opposite spectrum than me. You think that Yu-Gi-Oh is actually, which I've never heard anybody say that, but you felt like Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't, like, the meta wasn't shuffling or switching up fast enough,
On
basically.
on Master Duel. I know that on the TCG it's a complete different story, but on Master Duel, at least on the time that I was playing, that it was like 2, 3 years ago, maybe 4, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the game was like dead for months. There were no updates. There were like no nothing, and then they just update the ban list, and they were like doing shitty updates that wouldn't change the meta at all. And then the thing is, when you get to a competitive level, you only see the same decks, like 2 or 3 decks. That in
Hmm.
Pokemon that doesn't happen. In Pokemon, you are in the top 10 players of the world. I'm not, but if you see the top 10 players, they have like 5 or 6 or 7 decks
Yeah,
that they rotate.
I think that that's more the issue. That in Yu-Gi-Oh you come to this point where there's only one or two decks that are relevant. It's more about,
Exactly.
yeah, it's more about that than not printing new stuff. You know what I mean?
Like
Like there's
let's
only one or
suppose
two decks you
like
can really play.
yeah, like for example, I do like a burn slash poison slash control or stall type of deck. If I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh and there's something strong on that relevant in that meta, I'm gonna have fun, right? If you don't like that, you're not going to have, because guess what? Everyone is going to be playing with only that type of deck.
Right.
And there's
So
going to be
mirror
like
matches.
one deck that is the and there's one deck that is the counter. So it's like if you don't like it, there's only one option for you to play that is the counter. But at that point it's kind of obvious, right? In
Mm.
Pokemon it's like if you like a poison deck, there's a strong deck that is poison. Maybe it's not the top tier, but you can definitely easily get into Master Ball rank with that. Like you can basically choose your style and play, and you will have like maybe you will have only one deck available in that style, but you will have a
But
deck.
you'll have
It's
something.
not like yeah,
So so it's more of a matter, again, it's more of a matter that when you're trying to compete, really, there's not that many options to choose from type of thing. It's not
so
that
yeah,
you're not making of stuff. It's more. So
it's
dude,
funny because the game is simpler, the game is less complex, but the game has more options.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like my biggest problem with Yu-Gi-Oh is that it seems to funnel. Like you don't even care that the sets are getting replaced. All what you're saying is you care that it funnels into one or two decks being the only viable ones, right?
Mm,
Like mirror
yeah,
matches and
and maybe I'm contradicting myself here because in the beginning of our chat I said that I have fun in winning the matches, so that's why I don't mind playing meta decks.
mhm.
But like
But do you
still,
get bored of mirror
like
matches, for example? Like if
you get
everybody's playing
bored.
the same game, do you get bored of
You
that?
get bored. Exactly. Yeah, I do.
Mm,
Of course I do. Yeah.
yeah, I do too. I think that's one of the biggest issues right now. It's just too many mirror matches. When you get to a certain point, everybody's playing the same deck. There's not that many options of, most super
Yeah,
viable decks.
exactly.
But I know you gotta go, man. So I'll let you go. I know this has gone on for a while now. We didn't talk about I think a third, like
Yeah, there's still
half of
plenty
what
of
we wanted.
things to talk. We can yeah, we can do a part 2 if you want,
All
for
right.
sure.
Eventually, we'll do a part two, bro. I'll let you go, man. You take
All right.
care.
Thanks for the invite, man. Bye.
For sure. Take care.